The Demon Slayer Corps, an ancient organization that has existed for generations, all with the goal of killing one man, Kibitsuji Muzan. So today I'm going to explain all 19 members and their powers to discover who's the strongest of them all in a tier list as we go. So let's see who we're starting with. Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. He was a fierce and skillful fighter and considered the most talented flame-breathing user of his generation, as he learned to master the ability with the former Flame Hashira's books despite only reading 3 of them. Thus it's crazy to think that he reached such an insane level being mostly self-taught. In fact, one of Muzan's strongest ever demons, Akaza, complimented Rengoku's strength on multiple occasions, begging him to become a demon so that they could always fight. Even with a crushed eye, broken ribs, and internal bleeding, Rengoku was able to pull off the most powerful breathing form, Purgatory. With it, Rengoku closed the gap to Akaza, but at a cost. The demon still managed to react in time and turn Rengoku into his famous donut form. Nonetheless, he used this dire situation to his advantage, trapping Akaza in place, forcing him to chop off both of his arms and escape to safety before the sun came up. But what you really need to remember here is that Rengoku achieved all of this against one of the strongest upper moons, whilst his main focus was on protecting Tanjiro and the others. He also died too early for him to unlock his Demon Slayer Mark and Red Nichiren Blade, which are 2 of the most overpowered abilities in the series. The Demon Slayer Mark giving its user a boost in all attributes, whilst the Red Blade stops the demon's regeneration. Now, does that mean that Rengoku would have still died had that not been the case? Well, we'll never know. But at the very least, he'd have really pushed Akaza to the brink and likely become his version of Yoriichi to Muzan, a demon that just instills pure PTSD. And so I think it's fair to put him in A tier. Up next though is the master of simp breathing himself, Zenitsu. His ability as a demon slayer is evident from the start, despite his anxiety, as Zenitsu's true power only comes out when he's asleep to begin with. His use of lightning breathing in this form allowed him to swiftly decapitate the Tonga demon and defeat the Spider Family's son. He even defended 3 carriages all alone on the Mugen train. A few months later, during the entertainment district, he was able to quickly strike a defensive position when Daki attacked him, which despite making him unconscious meant that he took no major injuries. This impressed the upper rank demon, who in the past had been known to have killed Hashira. In spite of this, you could argue that she wasn't trying all out, as both were still in their disguises at this point. However, after she awakened, Zenitsu along with Inosuke did manage to defeat Daki. Zenitsu got even stronger after this though, by reaching the final stage of the Hashira training. All of these fights and training set him up for the biggest battle of his life and the moment he finally realised his true potential. That's right, he faced off against the new Upper Moon 6, his former sibling student Kaigaku. What's more is that Zenitsu was so full of anger that he had overcome his own anxiety and fought awake. That's when he showcased his skill as a demon slayer, unleashing a brand new breathing form which Zenitsu made himself. This is a Hashira level feat in and of itself, as we've only seen Giyu and Muichiro pull this off in the story. This form is called the Flaming Thunder God, and with it he speed blitzed Kaigaku before joining up with the others to battle against Muzan. And although by that point he was growing weaker due to the anti-Muzan drug, Zenitsu was still helpful. Thus, whilst not the strongest character in the series by any means, he's respectable enough to go into the B tier. Up next though, we've got Muichiro, the Mist Hashira. Now when it comes to demon slaying prodigies, there's not many better than him. Remember, this guy is even younger than Tanjiro. His bloodline alone makes him built different, as he's a direct descendant to Yoriichi's brother Kokoshubo. He killed a demon without a Nichiren blade at the age of just 11 before reaching the rank of Hashira in 2 months compared to the usual 5 years. Rengoku even admitted that Muichiro was more skilled than he ever was at the same age. Furthermore, he damaged the famous Yoriichi Type 0 doll when sparring with it before later defeating Upper Moon 5 all by himself, aged just 14. The fact fact Muichiro was such a child prodigy should come as no surprise that he was one of the first to awaken both the Demon Slayer mark and Red Nichiren blade. With this buff, Muichiro was able to shrug off the effects of a powerful paralytic poison, whilst his red blade later played a key role in Kokoshibo's defeat by helping slow down the demon's regeneration. Furthermore, his speed and reflexes are displayed to reach speeds akin to teleportation, as he was even able of keeping up with Gyoko. In fact, Muichiro reacted quick enough to slice and dodge 10,000 fish in a split second before their blood could even touch him. Even Kokoshibo praised Muichiro and was glad to see that his bloodline still birthed powerful beings, which is another great testament to Muichiro's ability. Therefore, when he should have been dead and buried, it's no surprise that he played an integral part in the Upper Moon One's defeat, as despite missing an arm, being stabbed in the shoulder, and missing the lower half of his body, Muichiro still held on strong, turning his katana red, freezing Kokoshibo in place, ready for his death. Unfortunately, Muichiro himself fell to the same fate due to his own injuries though, which is really a shame because if he had lived just 2 or maybe even 1 more year, he would have truly entered the S tier and probably become a demon slaying legend. Nonetheless, this child prodigy goes into A tier. Okay, but moving on. Another Hashira who fought against Kokoshibo, this time the Wind Hashira Sanemi. According to the Upper Moon, Sanemi's physical abilities and techniques were at their absolute peak. Even amongst the Hashira, Kokoshibo mentioned how Sanemi was simply built different. He had a better understanding of wind breathing than any other user of his generation, allowing him to move as if he was the wind himself. He's more than just a fast, powerful brute, however. Even after falling unconscious and suffering wounds that should have put him out for the count, he still fought on using sheer willpower alone. Now, by using the immense, detailed control he has over his muscles, Sanemi can close up and prevent any fatal injuries from opening in the midst of battle, which we saw after he was cut up by Kokoshibo, much to the demon's surprise. Thus, it goes without saying that he was someone who unlocked the powerful Demon Slayer mark and Red Nichiren blade, which helped against Kokoshibo and Muzan. When the Demon King tried to escape the sun in his ugly ass baby form, it was Sanemi who slowed him down and even cut off his head, stalling the escape. But an often forgotten advantage Sanemi has over other demon slayers is his Morechi blood. This is highly addictive to demons, where just 1 whiff can make them drunk. It even affected Kokoshibo, although the demon did eventually get used to it and fight back, likewise with Muzan. Regardless, for me, Sanemi goes into the S tier. Following up from Sanemi, however, is his brother, Genya. Now this guy's built different because he said, "Bun the blades, gimme a gun." And you know what? You gotta respect it. However, he went and took being built different to a whole new level as he eats demons. This, as you'd expect, gives him a big boost in power, which is really important as bro doesn't have a breathing style. This meant he could outspeed Aizetsu, nearly decapitate him, and pull off Hantengu's arm. After he had holes ripped straight through his body, Genya showed great regenerative abilities to recover from it, which only improved after eating some of Kokoshibo's hair. Here, he was able to reconnect his severed torso, eventually giving birth to his own blood demon art. Using his now upgraded shotgun, Genya could control the trajectory of flesh rounds, which after hitting their targets would turn into massive trees that root into the ground, capable of even trapping Kokoshibo. And because these trees absorb a lot of blood to grow, they could even stop the Upper Moon One from using his blood demon art. But as you'd expect by taking on demon characteristics, it comes with demon weaknesses. Genya can't heal from decapitation, and he's also incredibly vulnerable to Nezuko's blood demon art. And so overall, I've got to put him in the D tier. Not only does he not have a breathing style, but his way of keeping up with other demon slayers is to rely on eating demons, which is not only a big risk, but also extremely situational. And whilst he did learn repetitive action to also try and make up for his lack of breathing style, I'm sorry, it's not enough. However, continuing on, we've got the Sound Hashira Tengen. He's proved that he's no pushover. He went against both Daki and Gyutaro, where he even decapitated the former without her realizing it, making Tengen wonder if she was even an Upper Moon. What's more is that when facing off against these two demons, he was infected with a lethal poison that under normal circumstances would have killed a man instantly. But thanks to Tengen's upbringing as a shinobi, he learned to become more resistant to pain and poison than most. And like Rengoku, he did all of this whilst trying to protect the entertainment district, or at least what was left of it anyway. Now, despite missing an arm, Tengen also kept up against Gyutaro equally, even pinning him down and cutting his arm off, although this did cost him an eye in the process. Furthermore, the poison eventually did start having an effect, as he was unable to kill Gyutaro in the end, having to rely on Tanjiro to do so. But as you'd expect from the sound Hashira, Tengen can utilize echolocation like a bat to visualize opponents with sound alone. However, he can also take this to the next level by predicting an enemy's moves by noticing patterns in their attacks, producing a beat that Tengen fights to with his musical score technique. Thus, it's almost like a version of the transparent world. It just takes more time to get it ready, as he needs to see what an opponent is capable of first, meaning Tengen has to make sure he lives long enough, something which isn't really that helpful against the top tier demons. Now, unfortunately, Tengen never got access to the true transparent world, as he never unlocked his Demon Slayer mark due to him retiring after the battle in the entertainment district. And so by no means is he weak. However, he's certainly one of the weakest Hashira around, thus I'm gonna perhaps controversially here put him in C. Now, will this next character be as controversial? Let's see. It's the Serpent Hashira Obanai Iguro. He easily decapitated lower rank demons in the Infinity Castle and held back Nakame, the newly appointed upper rank 4, whilst also slashing up Muzan and nearly beheading him. In fact, when he and a few of the others got hit by a big beatdown from the Demon King, it was Obanai who got back up first to help Tanjiro. This was despite the fact that he had both eyes clawed out. This, however, was no problem, as Obanai doesn't need his eyes to see, and that's thanks to his snake Kaburamaru. It can predict an opponent's attacks and inform Obanai about them using their strong connection. This is how he was able to keep up in the battle with Muzan despite being blind in both eyes. What's even more impressive is that Kaburamaru isn't just an extra set of eyes, he's almost like a second brain. You see, Kanao claimed how intelligent he was, which was seen when Kaburamaru was able to literally understand Tanjiro's instructions in battle by grabbing Yushiro's paper talisman. Now, another thing that helps demonstrate how powerful Obanai was is the fact that he could compete against Muzan even before unlocking the Demon Slayer mark, Red Nichiren Blade, and Transparent World. During the battle, when many of the combatants had been taken down, Obanai was one of the only ones that kept fighting, holding back Muzan for 35 minutes before having his nervous system heavily damaged. Even towards the very end of the battle, despite taking a huge bite protecting Tanjiro, Obanai still mustered up enough energy to attack back. Thus, he was probably the longest lasting Hashira in the entire battle. This, along with how he created his own unique fighting style by utilizing swift, silky smooth, slithering motions to attack from impossible angles, should mean that it makes sense why I'm putting Obanai in the S tier. Following on from him, however, is his lover, Mitsuri the Love Hashira. Now, since birth, she's been strong. We're talking like ridiculously physically strong, to the point that she had to eat the same amount of food as 3 sumo wrestlers to keep her body functioning. However, in terms of combat prowess, at least compared to the other Hashira at least, she is on the weaker side. In spite of this, we have to give her credits for being able to create her own breathing style in Love Breathing. Now, whilst creating your own breathing style isn't anything new amongst the Hashira, I wanted to point this one out because it shows that she's smart enough to understand when things aren't going right for her. This was because when she was trained by Rengoku, she realized that flame breathing just wasn't built for her, and so she adjusted it. Now, Love Breathing in particular is pretty interesting, as by using it with Mitsuri's whip-like Nichiren weapon, she's able to attack in ways and the distances that most other Demon Slayers simply can't. Which is how she did such a great job against upper rank 4, awakening her Demon Slayer mark and forcing him to retreat so that Tanjiro and the others could find the main body. She also got out of this fight without any major injuries. However, being physically strong, incredibly fast, and flexible just isn't enough to make her stand out amongst the strongest. There's a reason she kinda did nothing in the battle with Muzan and was one of the first to take the night off after all. Therefore, I think I have to put Mitsuri in C tier. Up next though, we've got the main man himself, Tanjiro Kamado. I think we can all admit that by the end of the series, this guy had easily reached Hashira level. I mean, as you'd expect from the main protagonist, he got access to some really broken abilities which only got more OP the more the series went on. To begin with, he was trained in the water breathing, but abandoned it when he realized that he was more suited to use the legendary ancient sun breathing. He slowly mastered it as the series continued, helping him take on lower and upper moon ranked demons on the way. To continue the theme of Tanjiro just being built different, with just his crazy level of scent, he could sense demons and even their openings, letting him behead them easily. This was then leveled up when he trained with the Yoriichi Type 0 doll, as he was even able to predict its movements and destroy it. What's more, he was relentless in the Hashira training, being one of, if not the standout participant, learning a valuable skill from each lesson. Combine this genius with the fact that he was one of the very first to awaken the Demon Slayer mark, and it goes to show how he was able to avenge Rengoku and kill Akaza once and for all. He was able to counter the demon's blood demon art by entering the transparent world and using the selfless state. This meant that Tanjiro could entirely erase his presence by subduing his desire to kill. And he deduced all this just by Akaza's words and actions alone to understand the truth behind his techniques and how to counter them. Following on from this, he went straight into the Battle of Muzan, leading the charge with his mastery of sun breathing. Yes, he lost an eye and suffered poisoning which left him on the brink of death, but that was how he learned to copy the exact technique and movements of Yoriichi through Sumiyoshi's memories, allowing him to ultimately land the blow that exposed the Demon King to the sun and his death by using the secret 13th form. Thus, as a master of sun breathing who inherited Yoriichi's will and ended the war against the demons, yeah, it should come as no surprise that Tanjiro goes straight into the S tier. Now, who will follow up this demon slaying genius? It's his sensei, the water Hashira Giyu. He was able to spar on equal footing to Sanemi, so does this automatically make him S tier too? Well, let's find out. Akaza did admit that he'd not faced a water Hashira as strong as Giyu in over 50 years, so much like Rengoku, he got high praise from the upper rank 3. That being said, in his battle against Akaza, despite awakening his Demon Slayer mark, he didn't really push the upper moon any more than Rengoku did. And in fact, had it not been for Tanjiro who had surpassed him at that point, in my opinion there would have been a chance that Giyu would have suffered the same fate as his flame-breathing counterpart. Nonetheless, this wasn't the case, as Giyu then linked up with the others to face off against Muzan, where he fought till the very end, even after being poisoned, helping keep Muzan pinned until the sun came up with his red blade. And so whilst I think it's obvious that he's still way above the average Demon Slayer, I think Giyu is equal to Rengoku without his mark, and so I'm gonna place him in the A tier. Because had Tanjiro been at the level he was when he faced Akaza with Giyu during the Mugen Train arc, I think they'd have won. Anyway, up next is... who are you? Okay, this is Takeuchi. He didn't really do much other than stand by and help Yoriichi manipulate Upper Moon 4, and he's never really had any on-screen fights, but the fact that he did survive the Infinity Castle War means he can't be all that bad, so E tier. You know, whilst we're at it, let's go through all the lesser known Demon Slayers and just get them out of the way, shall we? Murata was another who helped out in and survived the Infinity Castle, so E. Nagakura, he died versus Muzan, which is not an embarrassing fate by any means, but he's not here to defend himself, so F. Likewise with Izaki. In fact, she didn't even reach Muzan. She died to the Spider Family, and that is embarrassing, so you know what? F it. Double F tier. But with those out of the way, let's swiftly move on to the insect Hashira, Shinobu. Now, of course, she is a Hashira, so is by no means a pushover. However, one major caveat with her is that she's physically unable to cut off a demon's head. She just simply does not have the strength to achieve this, which no matter how you look at it, is a problem. However, she did do her best to counteract this issue with poison. Her work with creating these deadly toxins was one of the most vital components in killing both Muzan and Doma. It's even arguable that she was maybe one of the most important Hashira. Because of this, these poisons were also incorporated into her own breathing style, insect breathing. It's something she made to also circumvent her shortcomings against demons by mimicking the stings of insects with a poison-tipped blade, rather than clean slices like most others. Her Dance of the Centipede even gives Shinobu a big boost in speed, to the point where even Upper Moon 2 was impressed. Nonetheless, she knew she'd have to sacrifice herself in order to defeat him in the end, which she does. But not without making herself a big poisonous piece of bait first. That way Doma's body would begin to shut down, allowing the others to kill him once and for all. And so whilst I do want to give her some props for her fantastic analytical skills and ability to think 2 steps ahead, she isn't the strongest by any means, and so I think C tier is a safe bet for Shinobu. Now moving on, we've got Kanao, which is perfect as after Shinobu's sacrifice, Doma points out how Kanao is more skilled than her. Tanjiro even claimed that she was the closest demon slayer to a Hashira without already being one, and Kanao only proved that. Before Inosuke backed her up, she did a good job in standing her ground against the Upper Moon too. Doma said that she was like a spring bouncing back and forth, she was that quick, where she also managed to land a direct hit to his stomach. But what really helps her stand out amongst the rest is her final form of flower breathing, the Million Eye. This maximizes her already insane kinetic vision, making the world around her slower, thus herself and her reactions much faster. This means that she's incredibly difficult to deal with. That being said, whilst this ability would normally put her in contention for an A or maybe even S tier spot, there is a major drawback. That's because it's risky as it strains the eyes and can rupture blood vessels, causing permanent blindness, which actually happens to one eye. And so as much as I love her, Kanao has to go into the B tier. Following on from her, however, is Inosuke. Inosuke is unique in the sense that he created his own breathing style from scratch based purely on his own instincts in the wild as a child. He was able to hold his own against upper rank 6 Gyutaro and Daki, but more importantly was a huge help to Kanao in the battle with the upper rank 2 Doma. In that battle, you see, she lost her sword. However, using his blistering speed, Inosuke retrieved the blade back for her without Doma even realizing it. This puts Inosuke's speed on a whole new level. This combined with his superhuman flexibility makes him troublesome for nearly any demon to face. And it all stems from his unorthodox beast breathing, which attacks from low, difficult angles using unnatural movements, making him fight unlike any other demon slayer. This made him easily Hashira level by the end of the series, as he too was able to help in the battle with Muzan, slicing him up. The only thing that stops him from being higher on the list, in fact, is that he's kinda got a lack of feats compared to the rest, and whilst he's not alone in this, there's also the fact that he's got no Demon Slayer mark, so B tier as well. Now the 2 Demon Slayers we have left are 2 of the craziest ones of all time, starting with the Stone Hashira Gyomei Himejima. When Sanemi and Iguru were facing Muzan, it was Gyomei who had the Demon King's full attention as he was the real threat. That is the kind of Hashira we're dealing with here, someone just on a whole different level compared to the rest. The craziest part of this, although, he achieved this level of strength blind. Well, kinda. Thanks to his mastery of the transparent world, Gyomei can predict his opponent's movements and sense them naturally, giving him almost the perfect level of vision for battling his opponents. Even his Nichiren weapon is unlike any other. His spiked flail and axe is stated to be better than even the Sengoku era of weapons, which was the peak age for demon slayers. Even Kokoshibo's moon breathing failed at cutting through the chains, which prompted the demon to explain how Gyomei had honed his body to its peak, making him the strongest demon slayer of the past 300 years. You combine this with the fact that he unlocked the Demon Slayer mark against him, and it comes as no surprise that Gyomei was able to not only behead the Upper Moon one, but even cause genuine damage to Muzan. Many on this list have sliced and diced the Demon King up, but with Gyomei it was different. Muzan was actually forced into healing himself. He held out to the very end, proving himself absolutely vital in the battle before Gyomei eventually succumbed to his injuries, passing on peacefully to the afterlife with those he cherished. Nonetheless, the fact that he was literally a living Demon Slayer legend cements his position in the S tier with ease. But last but not least is the Demon Slayer god himself, the progenitor of all breathing styles, the creator of sun breathing, the prodigy. The man literally sent from God to counter Muzan. It's Yoriichi Tsukigini. Listen, I don't think you need me to explain this one, alright? He's a legend in the world of Demon Slayer who put generations worth of PTSD into Muzan to the point that he searched out any person even closely connected to him or sun breathing just to kill them. He literally wanted any semblance of Yoriichi to go entirely extinct. And it's all because Yoriichi scarred Muzan for all eternity after being moments away from killing him all by himself. And so he just is the easiest S tier decision on this entire list.